This is Steve Young for the Co-Roundtable. I've been working on an article recently. I'd like to kind of share with you the core idea. So it gets to the tension, if you will, the rivalry between capitalism and socialism, communism, Marxism. And the rivalry I focused on is really Marxism, and the argument that capitalism is inherently a bad system. And there are two sort of key documents here. One is the Communist Manifesto of 1849, I think. And then later, Marx's big, thick work in German, or Das Kapital, where he really focuses on capital with a capital C as the essence of capitalism and what makes it a nefarious system. Now, there's another set of concepts, a more modern set of concepts out there, which involve this idea of rent extraction. And rents are kind of a technical economic term for a certain kind of income or money that we get. The classic example is a landlord. You own a piece of land, you own a house, and you rent it out to somebody, and you receive rents. The argument there, as I understand it, and I'm not an economist, which sort of goes back to this guy, David Ricardo, in the early 19th century, is that there's something different about rents than, say, you're showing up in the market with a baby pig and you want to sell the baby pig, and you haggle about the price. Because in that market, you don't have a lot of market power, because the potential customers, they can go walk 5 feet away in the country market and buy a different baby pig from another seller, either at a lower price or at a higher price, because it's a better pig from their point of view. But when you're a landlord, you have total control over your piece of property. Nobody else, in theory, can tell you what to do. And so you put that out there, you're in a more dominant position. Not entirely, because somebody can walk away from your property and rent the property next door. But the idea is that in addition to the free will of market systems, there are power structures. Monopolies are classically criticized because they impose their power in the markets to extract more money than they really need to. They could sell their tube of toothpaste for 10 cents, but because there are only two companies making toothpaste, let's say, they both sort of each sell for 30 cents a tube. What are you going to do? There's no competitor. You were in some sense forced by a power structure to part with your money and give it to them. Now, in the Capitalist Manifesto, Marx and his colleague Engels, they argue that basically every human economic system, maybe not the ancient ancestors who were hunter-gatherers, but all big modern art, all from the pharaohs and the Greeks and the Romans, are systems of rent extraction, where hierarchies, where some elite has power, political power, religious authority, economic power, social power, and they basically set the terms. And what they do is they create social injustice. They set the terms so they get a bigger share of return, of money return, and they don't give back very much. And that they say in the Communist Manifesto is the norm of human nature. We just can't get away from it. It's because we're sort of dark creatures. And capitalism is also a system of rent extraction. And this is, we hear the echoes in here of Charles Dickens' story, The Christmas Carol, where Ebenezer Scrooge, who is a moneylender, guy doesn't make anything, he's a moneylender. He lends money out and he lives off interest. That capitalism is a system where Mr. Moneybags always is raking in the money. And the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Marx in Das Kapital then has to figure out, his second book, how can I actually analyze capitalism to prove that it's a system of rent extraction? He's got a problem here, because this other guy, Adam Smith, came along in 1776 to describe capitalism not as a system of rent extraction, but as a system of putting together different kinds of assets, including human labor understood as an asset, to make more things at a cheaper price, to sell more, and to create wealth. And Marx has to deny Adam Smith. He has to say Adam Smith was wrong. He's got to reconceptualize what Adam Smith was writing about. And he does this in his book Das Kapital by coming up with concepts he invents, like use value and surplus value and commodity value and things like that. Well, I think if we look at Das Kapital skeptically and we say, do these concepts which Marx invented, do they really exist out there in the real world in life? And my argument is no, they don't. My argument is that Marx's analysis of capitalism as a rent extraction system fails. Capitalism is a different kind of system from rent extraction. But in 2022, I would say the majority of economic systems and societies and countries in the world, from communist China to Cuba to Venezuela to Kazakhstan to Russia, and even some capitalist systems, they use rent extraction because people like to have power, and they like to use power to help themselves rather than help other people.